some have actually described Magu's prosecution, so to say. I don't know whether to call it a prosecution or he's sitting before the panel, a probe panel to investigate the activities of the EFCC or the Hastings. Some have described the actions as politically motivated, while others see it from a different perspective. How will you assess, or what's your assessment of Magu's situation at the moment?
Let's start with the aspect of the panel. The panel is not a court of law, so I think more or less they are just gathering information which may be classified as being investigative to reveal other issues that may help in case prosecution comes in. And you look at it from that point. Some may want to say it's political, given the fact that as soon as they started, someone has been named to take over as the acting chairman of EFCC. In fact, I went online to check EFCC on Wikipedia, and interestingly, the name of the new guy is already listed there. And it's not likely that Magu will return to office. And we need to be mindful of the fact that in June, the Attorney General of the Federation wrote a memo to the president indicting Magu and claiming that Magu is even a liability to the fight against corruption, alleging that he has misappropriated some funds and dealt treacherously with some recovered assets and stuff like that. And what began like a joke escalated to the point where he got arrested by the DSS. And at that point in time, many of us were amazed and amused at the same time. Because you recall that Magu has been presented to the Senate, the 8th Senate in particular, at least 2 times.
Yeah, twice.
And the Senate refused to confirm him as a substantive chairman on the basis of an indicting report from DSS. But he has continued in office. And what the 8th National Assembly could not achieve, the executive has achieved it maybe in a space of 2 months. So it's quite interesting. And I recall there was a case, consolidated cases against Magu before Justice Ijeoma Ikpeme in Federal High Court in Abuja. And she said that both the yam and the knife of Magu are in the hands of President Muhammadu Buhari, insinuating that if the president is tired of Magu, Magu will be out of office. And here we are, that is playing out. And having said that, let's go to the critical issue that concerns us, which is the fight against corruption, which is one of the prominent promises of this regime that led to the electoral victory in 2015. And the EFCC itself came into being around 2003 when the Joint Task Force on Financial Task Force listed Nigeria as one of the 23 countries making the fight against economic crime, money laundering, and financing of terrorism difficult in the world. And that was during the regime of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo as the head of state. So EFCC was given back to respond to that need then through the EFCC Act of 2004. Nuhu Ribadu was the first chairman, and reportedly he did so well, and then followed by Farida Waziri and Lamode, and now Nuhu Ribadu. And it's on record that almost all of them left office unceremoniously.
Exactly, because one begins to wonder, every one of them has left in controversial circumstances. I mean, what does that tell us about the organization itself? Is it a time that the EFCC itself be evaluated?
On the platform of sincerity, I doubt if there is any office you occupy in Nigeria that you may not be trapped in the web of being removed unceremoniously. So I think we have a systemic problem. Now, with all the sensational revelations we are having via the media trial, of houses purchased by Magu in Dubai, dollars transactions and things like that. The big question that came to my mind was very simple. How did we arrive at this point when our system is so porous that a group of people will just rise up, corner our resources, and deal with our resources? I expressed my concern subject to the respect that he's still enjoying presumption of innocence under the Constitution. So I'm not judging him. I'm just assessing the kind of system we have. You turn here, you hear billions of naira that have disappeared here, gorillas swallowing money, snakes swallowing money. So why is our system so porous? You hear of all theft, different kinds of corrupt allegations, and it appears as if even under this regime that is entrusted to fight corruption, we may come out with the highest magnitude of corruption post this regime, because it is characteristic of Nigeria that you dare challenge an incumbent regime. I mean, right now we are still recovering the Abacha loot, and I doubt if any Nigerian was bold enough to confront Abacha in his lifetime as the military head of state, as sir, you are moving our money. So we need to get serious in fighting corruption, and many will be quick to say corruption will fight back. Definitely. If you are going to switch on the light, you must realize that darkness will not be happy. But it's been said in the science of light that darkness travels backwards, and that is when light asserts itself. So I think we are not assertive enough in fighting corruption. So it's like for the corrupt, it's no big deal.
Now, you talk about the fact that it's a systemic problem. I mean, most of us actually knows about that. And even though Magu has been suspended at this time, whoever succeeds him will inevitably face the same fate. I mean, considering the fact that this is... So how do we resolve? How do we actually... how do we resolve the crisis of the systemic problems with regards to fighting corruption itself?
Implementation. At the time, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, I read, was impressed by how Lee Kuan Yew translated Singapore from a little nation, third world, to first world. And I asked, hey, what did you do? And Lee Kuan Yew responded that he decided, alongside his team, to do the right thing, and that they will continue to do the right thing. And that is why Singapore is one of the best places to live and work in the world. And I think Nigeria also has to take that decision to do the right thing. It's a holistic issue. You look at customs, you look at immigration, you look at the police, you look at the military, you check everywhere. There are issues that seek to overwhelm the governance system. So when you have an overwhelmed governance system, it's a serious matter. In comparison, in managing this COVID-19 crisis, the United States came up, maybe it was the idea of the president, that okay, if we are migrating to online education, then foreign students in our country should go back to their countries. But the people rose up and engaged that no, it's not in the interest of the people. And he has to pedal on that. So, but in Nigeria, we don't have that mechanism to challenge the system. So the system just runs in a way that it's either you are crushed in court or you join in court also. And that is why we are the capital of poverty. Go and Google failed nations, and you'll be shocked if you don't find the name of Nigeria. So we have a problem. And having said that, why do we have a government? To take hold of wherever we are and make things better. I've said it, and I'm challenging Nigerians again today. Please indulge me with your data. Go and read through, you may not even study, Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. It will amaze you how far away we have strayed from good governance. And with all the symptoms we have in our society, insecurity, criminality, poverty, hunger, pain, hardship, it's in Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. So we have a lot of questions. And if you ask me, from the angle of leadership, I think it's a serious leadership crisis, because leadership is expected to have a vision of making things better for the society.
Let me get your perspective on this as we cast a spotlight on the Attorney General of the Federation, that's Malami himself, who actually raised the memo that indicted Ibrahim Magu of the EFCC. A lot of analysts, legal analysts and experts have actually are dismayed at how he repeatedly seems to bend the judiciary, so to say, to Buhari's political interest. Some of these actions have generated controversy, yet no personal consequences. He has been described as an enabler in chief, in corruption. The president's enabler in corruption and oppression. What's your assessment or perspective on this?
Those are allegations. Malami occupies office by virtue of Section 174 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, and he exercises his power. EFCC is under his supervision, and that power, the way he exercises it, some may not be comfortable. I am particularly not comfortable with a present case now, and I speak without prejudice to the authority and the honor of the judiciary, which is the prosecution of Wadume, the celebrated accused kidnapper. You recall that the leader of the military that killed trained Nigerian policemen who identified themselves facilitated the dramatic release of the accused kidnapper and his escape before he was rearrested by the police. They've now been dropped. And Malami came up with a sensible argument that, okay, these guys are military guys, they are soldiers. The military have their martial law, so there has to be an internal management investigation before they are released for prosecution. Brilliant argument. But generally speaking, and within the concept of criminal justice and societal criminology principles, the signal being passed to the space is that you can go into crime and either frustrate the judicial system, or if you have your connections, you stampede the process. And when there are no penalties for offenses, then we are propagating crime. I have brought in the concept of reinforcement theory several times. It means that what you don't prevent can get worse. You see, and that is why from Boko Haram to banditry to Islamic states of West Africa to kidnapping to killings, different kinds of crime. Because you must hit the nail on the head. Look at what Dubai did in the case of Hush Puppy. They went after him. And do you know that Nigeria also was interested in Hush Puppy being extradited to Nigeria? But America gained an upper hand because UAE felt more comfortable with obtaining justice through the American system than through the Nigerian system. So these are issues. So the office of the Attorney General is legitimately carrying out his activities right now. And don't forget also, the elders have a saying, and I play to quote, that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So in this case, Malami is answerable to the President as the Minister of Justice and General of the Federation. And we know also that in the area of insecurity recently, The latest is that the Chief of Army Staff is saying that he's satisfying his master, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, that he's operating in line with his vision. Even though soldiers are being killed, and reportedly about 356 soldiers are now voluntarily withdrawing their services. And all these will affect not just our image, but our reputation as a nation. And you can see the level of insecurity in the country. So we still have a lot to look up to in terms of enjoying good governance. But having said that, I quite agree that this regime, they are trying their best. But on the scale of evaluation, particularly returns on investment, how best the best is another issue entirely.
Still on Malami, you stated that he's legitimately carrying out his role as the Attorney General of the Federation. Considering all the infractions that has been exposed in recent time, especially, which has been perpetrated under the nose of the Chief Law Officer of Nigeria, ranging from, for example, questionable acquisitions, which has been reported in the media in recent time, including the lavish wedding of his son. Doesn't that calls to question the credibility of the Attorney General of the Federation?
Maybe media credibility. We are discussing the law here. He may buy the whole of Africa, except he is prosecuted, except he is accused, investigated, prosecuted, and declared guilty.
So should we?
He's a free man.
So the question now is Buhari going to toe the same line which he told in the case of Magu, for example, by suspending Malami so that the appropriate investigations can be done? Or is it just one rule for Magu, another rule for Malami?
I cannot hold brief for my president, Muhammadu Buhari. I know that when he's ready, he will do what he feels should be done to be recorded on the golden side of history. But don't forget that even many Nigerians have been asking for the service chiefs to be replaced. But he has said he will not replace them. I just told you now, shortly, that he presented Magu to the 8th National Assembly. Yeah. And he was not confirmed. And what should have been expected was for him to present another candidate. But he was comfortable with him. At a time when there was mass killing in Benue State, my president went to Benue State and said himself that the then Inspector General of Police did not obey his order. He invited him for a closed-door meeting, and the man continued in office until he completed his cycle and another person took over. You see, so, and that is why leadership is critical. Your role as a leader, personally, is as important as the roles and the personalities of the team you choose to work with you. Because at the end of the day, your achievements, your travails, everything characteristic of your regime will be recorded under your name. We can speak now of the Second Republic of Alhaji Shehu Shagari. We can talk about the regime of, and you talk about Abacha Lut now. If I ask Nigerians now, who was the Minister of Finance during Abacha Lut, you cannot tell me in 3 seconds. But you won't forget Abacha. So a time comes when we look back and say, Muhammad Buhari regime, his second regime. What are the characteristics of that regime? That is the concern of some of us. I love my president. I would have been so happy, and we are still hopeful, that this regime will be the time when we have consistent electricity in Nigeria, when we have industrialization, when we have unity, when we have peace, when we have prosperity. I'll be so glad. I'll be so glad.
So considering the fact that, you talk about the leadership and assessment of Buhari's regime and administration, isn't it worrisome to say that the president seems not to be in charge at this point in time, considering the fact that with the extent of the executive rascality in the country, it is clear that there is no appropriate administrative and moral authority in Nigeria? Isn't it an indictment
I
of the president?
I will not tie myself to that. The president is in charge. but I'm not clear about what he wants to achieve. He has his vision. And if his vision is not being implemented, he would have acted otherwise. So I cannot hold brief for him. But from the wider spectrum, some of us are looking at what could have been done. And I can assure you, when the president wants to act, he really acts. The case study of Nnamdi Kanu is still there. When it was time to get him out of circulation, there was a Python dance or so to get him dealing with the Shiites is there. So when the state wants to act, that happens. All right.
So how long will Nigerians have to wait before the president should actually take actions in regards to all these infractions?
Let me encourage all of us. Nigeria is greater, bigger, I don't have any other expression, than all of us. We are just players in the global scheme of Nigeria. Nobody can outlive this country. This country will outlive everybody, so it's a continuum. So you only have an opportunity to participate in Nigeria, maybe in the government or advocating for better life for the people, in your own window of opportunity. And what you do with that is important. A time will come, I'm expressing my expectation, when Nigeria will be the third richest country in the world. I may not be alive then, but that's my prayer. So, and I think if we all realize that it's a privilege to be part of the process of managing this country, we have everything. If you steal all the money, you die, you take them nowhere. Abacha loot is being recovered now. If they are being relooted now, you reloot, and you will die of relooting. You die and go. That is, it's a very simple issue. And I think that is a consciousness that has not been registered in the minds of many, because when I look at some of them, they feel as if they are not living this world again. So because all the resources of God is to make man enjoy this world. Before God created man, he created the blessings. So cost, and I repeat, cost are those who withhold these blessings from humanity, whether within the government circle or wherever you may find yourself. It's just difficult for human beings to learn. We still talk about great Mandela. Take the name Mandela to anywhere in the world, the honor is there. We talk about Mother Teresa. We talk about great people who have passed through this world. So when you are passing through, will you enhance the pains of humanity or enhance the joy of humanity with the opportunities you have? And I think that is my message